And they're off. Okay, so we're going to get them synced up here for you in a second. Looks like Parisian doesn't have a timer of his own going, so we're mostly just going to rely on Cheez, but they are pretty nearly synced, maybe about a second or so between the two of them. So first things first, we get our buddy Diddy. You start as Donkey, get Diddy, and then immediately get rid of Donkey because he is slower than Diddy. And you actually lose time, you lose some lag frames for having him in addition to Donkey, or in addition to Diddy, and you also lose time for having him on the world map. You lose 10 frames every time you travel from one level to the next on the overworld. So as you see, Cheez only has one Kong, whereas Parisian is taking a little bit safer, and he kept Donkey with him. As a race strategy, I don't think that's a bad idea, especially for newer players. However, the more seasoned runners will sacrifice Donkey there in 1-1 and go solo Diddy for the most of the game, even in race situations, just because of the confidence that they have in their skill and the overall advantages of only having one Kong. Particularly on Parisian's scene, you're going to see a lot of lag at the end of this stage right here for having two Kongs. That one in particular can lose you, I believe, at least like a full second. Now we're going into Reptile Rumble 1-3. Going to see some good movement on Cheez's side here, some cool rolls, and it's going to introduce us into crawl spaces, which are a very interesting mechanic. You want to jump into them like this, and you can jump all the way through. He doesn't do the zip, but there is a zip you can do by holding down and jumping into a crawl space. It lets you jump through them as opposed to this crawl animation that you normally do, which is significantly slower. If you are, you just saw it on Parisian's side of that little crawl there. If you are in a crawl space and you jump through and you press Y, the roll button, it will zip you out to whichever side you're closer to. So the idea is you jump in over halfway through and then you press Y, it zips you out on the other side. Now we are into the first water stage of the game. There isn't actually water in this game. It's just a flag that gets set on entering the level that says your Kong is swimming. There's no water, there's no air, there's no difference. It's just graphical. It's purely graphical, including the bubbles. So in ROM hacks and randomizers and stuff like that, when you get water enemies outside, they just fly. They just float. There's no gravity affecting them. But you're going to see most of the time that we're in the water, we're on our little fish buddy on guard. He is significantly faster than either of the Kongs, particularly in the horizontal direction. You can see with his lunge ability, he gets a little speed boost. You can also dispatch enemies, knock them away. The enemies that you can't kill, you can just clip straight through. We're going to do a lot of that in a couple other levels, Clam City and Poison Pond, so keep your eye out for that. Barrel Cannon Canyon, the last level of the first world, is mostly skipped. You just ride these barrel cannons across the top of it, these auto barrels. But you do have to come back down here and dispatch some guys, do a little extendo through here to get up to this one, and take another barrel to the end of the stage as you see on Cheez's screen. What an extendo is, you can roll through enemies and you increase your speed with every enemy that you roll through, up to 4 enemies, which will yield a 100% increase in speed over your regular rolling speed. So rolling through enemies is good. You want to do that, it makes you go faster and it refreshes your roll. When you roll through an enemy and release the Y button, the roll button, and then repress it again after passing through an enemy, you get that refresh again. You extend your roll, so we call those extendos. They're very useful in bridging gaps and connecting different sets of enemies so you can keep your move speed from one to the next. So we dealt with our first boss there. Really not a big deal, really nothing to talk about. You just bop him on the head. Very unimportant, but we'll see a likeness of him later that's a little bit more difficult. Still really nothing to worry about. Now into Winky's Walkway. Lots of good movement in this stage. It's very satisfying to play quickly. There's just there's one good extendo, and there's lots of good jumps and stuff like that. It's very satisfying the way the rolls line up. Now onto what would be the first auto-scroller stage, and Cheez almost took it. He went for a strat where you roll through that first barrel in order to not pick it up. I think we'll see Parisian pick it up. Oh, he rolls through it as well. Wow, good for him. Saves about a quarter of a second. So the problem there is the Y button is your roll button, and you also need to keep holding that in order to run, but you also use that to pick up barrels. So you need to press Y to start your roll and then release Y as you pass through the barrel, in order to not pick it up. Saves about a quarter of a second with the sort of I guess the trouble that if you mess it up, you can go into that auto barrel, which shoots you into a minecart, and that's an automatic like 20 seconds or so lost at least, because normally we just skip most of that level with a warp that takes us to the end. So this is Bouncy Bonanza, very difficult level, lots of good movement here, lots of good tire rolls, and one extendo that I would be surprised if either of the players go for. For the most part, it is what we'd call like the first really hard level in terms of optimization. Now on to Stop and Go Station. Just walk back out the exit, walk back out the entrance, and it warps you pretty much like 90% of the way through the level. Not really too much to actually do there. Very short level. The interesting thing about this level is it has these rock crocs, that enemy right there. While they're activated, you can roll through them and they won't actually hurt you. Ooh, Cheez having a little bit of trouble setting up the super jump here. Okay. Oh, he still didn't get it. I wonder if he's just going to take a death here. I don't know if he realized. Yeah, I think he did realize that he didn't charge the super jump here, so he's going to have to do a trick called tire over gap. Meanwhile, Parisian player setting up super jump properly and getting into the donkey exclusive warp barrel. Cheez did get his tire over the gap though, so he needs to switch back to donkey. I hope he remembers that. He's trying to get it. He needs to swap. Yeah, there you go. Good job, bud. All right, so Parisian playing it a little bit safer, but ended up working out in his favor, just purely due to Cheez having a little bit of trouble setting up the super jump. We're going to see that again soon, so I'll take the time now to explain it. What you need to do is take damage with one of your Kongs such that they run into a wall or a slope. When they do, they will jump up off the top of the screen. This charges the super jumps. You need to get your Kong back, so break up another DK barrel, and then when you either swap to that Kong or take damage, you need to press and hold press and hold B, the jump button. If you land on an enemy or something you can bounce off of without releasing B, it will shoot you upwards infinitely, like as long as you're holding B. So they use that trick to get into that donkey exclusive warp barrel at the end of Millstone there. And you normally can't reach it. You normally have to go and get the tire and bring that back, but we use that trick to get to it without having to waste the time going to get that tire, which can also be really, really finicky. So not only it's faster, it's easier. It's very difficult to actually get the tire over the gap most times. Just taking some more warps here in Treetop Town. Nothing much to talk about there. Parisian getting Donkey back so he can set up another super jump right here. This is the main one that most players use. It saves a boatload of time over having to play out the stage. There is also a trick here called a super jump roll right here where you see Parisian doing his super jump. You need to walk off the ledge such that you land on the Kremling in what's called a falling state. And while you're falling, you actually clip through ropes, so that's why they're not getting stepped by the ropes here. Otherwise, you end up having to go through this huge auto-scrolling section where you ride all these ropes. It's actually faster if you mess up the super jump to die and set it up again rather than play out the whole stage. So really the only thing barring you from trying it again and again and again is your life count, and typically that's not really an issue. You shouldn't screw it up 7 or 8 times, however many lives you have at this point. Parisian holding on a little bit long there. He came down a little bit late, but not too much of a time loss. Cheez is going to come down at the top here. You get to roll through those two guys, so he saves a little bit of time. He's catching up very well to Parisian, who looks like he's going to go for Espresso. There's a bonus here that you can enter in order to get the Bird Buddy Espresso. You lose a little bit of time going for this strat as opposed to what Cheez is going to do, which is just a couple extendos to bridge these gaps and skip those ropes. The Bird loses, I think, about 6 seconds over what we would call optimal. Just most of the extended rolls that we use to skip some ropes and stuff like that. So Cheez is actually going to end up making up time over Parisian, assuming he can get this. He doubled back, but it looked like it worked out for him. I don't know if that's just something he improvised or if that's his usual strat, but that is Something new to me. Either way, it worked out pretty well for him, and he is closing the gap on Parisian ever so slightly. So now they're going to be going into what's called map warp. So on the world map, there are corners. There are 4 of them on the World 1 overworld. That is the only place where they are. And if you press any of the face buttons as if to enter a stage on these corners, like right there where Parisian is in the bottom, so you got a second try, first try for Cheez, it sends you to the end of this stage, Orangutan Gang, specifically that one. The 4 corners go to 4 different places. So this is the one that we use particularly for all stages because it sends you towards the end of Orangutan Gang, that level they just completed. So more accurately, this category isn't exactly all stages as it is all exits and all bosses. You don't have to begin the stage at whatever the beginning is. You don't have to enter from the start. You just need to get to the exit of each stage, and also defeat all of the bosses as well. So that leads to some interesting alternate routes that typically aren't faster, but you can use a whole bunch of different warps in this game to go different ways. So another swimming level, as we are again on our fish buddy On Guard. He is much faster than Kongs, as I said before, but something that's interesting about both of the Kongs in water is Donkey is typically slower than Diddy on land. However, they have the same move speed underwater, and the animal buddies that you ride, their move speed is affected by the speed of your Kong that you have in front. So when you are riding On Guard as either of the Kongs, it's the same speed because they also have the same swim speed. However, if you ride any of the other animal buddies, you will be slower if you have Diddy riding. I'm sorry, slower if you're Donkey riding and faster with Diddy. So onto the bee fight. Pretty simple. You just smash the bee with these barrels here that spawn infinitely when the bee turns yellow. Cheez taking a bit of an alternate strat, swapping to Donkey. In my opinion, the fight is a little bit easier as Donkey. The way that he holds the barrel, it's a little bit easier to hit the bee. So he is going to lose a little bit of time for that swap here, and he's going to have to swap back as well coming into 4-1. But if the runner's more comfortable doing the boss that way, I highly encourage it. I actually do the boss that way in a different category that typically sees you enter the boss fight with Donkey in front. So now 4-1 onto the ice world of this game, or as you see, it's pretty much wintertime. And there is a nice trick here called Barrel Boost. You see it on Cheez's screen. You hold a barrel as you jump off of a slope, any ledge, and you get propelled forward a little bit faster than normal, and it lines up perfectly with these couple of birds such that you get to skip a whole bunch of auto barrels. Very cool strat, very easy. Definitely recommended for newer players. It's not too hard to pick up, completely honestly. There's no real barrier to entry to that one. All you really do is hold the barrel with Y and then jump with B. So good stuff. And then we enter a little hidden barrel there down at the bottom in order to skip the end of the stage. Now on to Slip Slide Ride. The nice thing about this one is there's a warp very close to the beginning. You have to bounce on one of those guys in order to get up to this rope, and Cheez going to go for an out of bounds clip right there. He goes up and above the top of the stage in order to get into that bonus as Diddy, Parisian going for it as well. Both of them first try, very nice. Typically the game wants you to get in there as Donkey because while they have a similar jump height, Donkey's hitbox extends a little bit higher. You just sort of brush the very bottom of that barrel with his knuckles because he extends them up in the air. What's up, Red? Now on the Ice Age Alley, this is typically where we see our Bird Buddy Espresso for the first time. As you see, it is the first time Cheez has gotten in, but Parisian's already had round 1 in Temple Tempest. So this level is typically referred to as Bird because it's usually the only place where you actually ride it in the all stages category. You want to ride the bird running down slopes, running down hills. You actually get a little bit of speed boost if you do. However, conversely, if you ride the bird going uphill, you actually get slowed down a little bit. So you want to jump up hills and run down hills. And Cheez taking a little bit of a different route, not the typical route that you see most runners do, but it's still working out pretty well for him. And he's got, let's see, about 5 seconds on Parisian right now, so it's still a very close race. And this next level, Croctopus Chase, is about 2 minutes and 20 seconds long. You really get to see the separation between the good players and the best players in this level. It is all cutting corners, optimizations like as small as you can imagine, mashing B to swim up in all of these up channels. And so how swimming upwards works, there is no cap on your swim speed. However, after you press B, you reach your max speed when swimming upwards, and then immediately it starts tapering off. So if you press B one frame, release it for the next, and press B for the next frame, by the way, this game runs at 60 FPS. So if you can mash 30 times a second, that is the theoretical cap on swim speed. However, that's not really viable for, typical humans. So basically just mash as fast as you can. And so that is one of the best ways to save time in this level. The other one, like I said, is cutting corners and keeping your momentum around turns as best as you can. You're going to see it here and there. I'm not really sure how good Cheez is on this level. Right there on Parisian's side, you see he was up against the right wall on that way down, and again he's leaning against that right wall, so he's going to lose all that momentum that he could have gathered, all that acceleration from maybe starting further to the left and then cutting that corner as closely as possible, already traveling rightwards at maximum speed. So here it looks like he's got a better idea of it, where you don't hang on that left wall so much, but you start moving left such that when you clear that corner, you're already moving leftwards at your maximum speed. Really tough to explain without having perfect demonstrations on either side, but I think you get the gist of it. Obviously, bonking is not fun. Bonking is slow. So another thing, right here on Parisian's side, right there. So he starts going down. What you want to do is you want to swim upwards first, such that you get some downward momentum, and as soon as you clear that corner, you start going down as well. So Cheez with 17 roughly, and Parisian about 25. So Parisian lost a couple seconds to Cheez on that level. 2 seconds over the course of 2 minutes and 20 or so, you might think isn't really all that much, but it really can add up. I mean, the best players are leagues away from newer players in that level, and it's all in all really just free time, honestly. So Parisian taking a little bit of damage there, not a huge deal. Gets his Kong back, and he's still on his way. And Cheez out of Torchlight. I don't think he does the SJR in this level. No, he does not. So I keep mentioning SJR's super jump roll, which combines a super jump, which was the trick that you saw before, which makes them fly really high, in addition to a jump roll, which we haven't seen yet. I believe both players go for Oil Drum Alley super jump rolls, so we'll get to see it there. But what a jump roll is, I'll mention it there. Focus on the stage at hand. So there's lots of good tire rolls here. Parisian taking damage again, no big deal. Gets his Kong right back, and again switches right back to Diddy since he is significantly faster. Playing it safe, taking halfway, good choice. So right there, nice tire roll by Cheez, and then roll through that guy and under the bees, and he is out. Lots of good movement in this stage, lots of good tire rolls, a couple good extendos, some platform skips. Neither of the players go for the platform skips. They are quite dangerous. Unfortunately, Cheez taking damage on this second naughty fight, so now he's not going to be able to attempt Oil Drum Alley super jump roll. You do need to enter the next stage with both Kongs, and he's not going to be able to get a DK barrel before then. So yeah, you see that slap in a little bit of rage, just to show off how mad he is that he took damage there. It's I wouldn't necessarily call it a rookie mistake. Players of all caliber make mistakes on this boss and get hurt sometimes, but he's mad about it, I'm sure. So now Parisian is about 17, roughly 17, I think, back from Cheez, but he could make all that up right here if he gets this SJR, and I did notice him practicing it. That's a nice alternate strat from Cheez there, that roll. Never seen that before. And Setting it up. He just goes for the super jump. All right, so it looks like he's going to super jump over this stage. It does lose a little bit of time over playing out this stage as Cheez is. However, it is significantly safer as he is way above the top of the stage, and there's no way that he can take damage. So he's holding B, holding B, holding B. He is released at this point already, so now he's falling. He's falling the rest of the way across this whole stage. And as you see, Cheez going through this really tough pit right there, where he has to roll across some oil drums on fire and some tires and stuff. So that's all the stuff that Parisian is going to be able to avoid right now. Hey, I love you as well. So he gets to avoid all that stuff simply by going over the top of the stage. Does lose a little bit of time, but it is much, much safer. So if you die once in this stage, it makes the super jump worth it. There is also a super jump roll in this stage. I don't anticipate either player going for it. It is very difficult, and Cheez is not going to go for it. Tanked up trouble. I'm sorry, trick, track, track. Parisian just finished up. Not really much to talk about. You just take a warp at the beginning. Very, very short level. Whole 10 seconds long. And lots of good platforming here in Elevator Antics. There's actually a platform skip, an elevator skip that we do at the end, and I do believe Cheez goes for it, so hopefully he'll get to show that off for you. Parisian, I don't think normally jumps over this level. He is going to take the bonus, which skips a fair portion of the stage, and that is the second and final bonus that we take to skip parts of the stage. On Cheez's screen, nice little elevator skip right there. Got tripped up on the necky a little bit, though. Looks like he might have messed up his intentional cycle. Lots of love for Cheez in the chat. All right, so setting up a platform right there so he can jump straight to it. Also taking it safe. He could have jumped and rolled into that clump there, but it looks like he was just taking some extra precautions. MozzarellaCheez now onto Poison Pond. So this is sort of the factory world where everything's, you know, industrial and whatnot. So this pond is supposed to be polluted, and there's these spiky wheels of death flying around. But this is another stage where we see our good buddy On Guard. And all those clips that I was talking about, one right there, this is where they really shine. There's a triple mincer clip coming up right here. Looks like Cheez doesn't go for it, but you are going to see at least one more right there. Very nice. Well done by Cheez. Triple mincer clip can be a little bit tricky to learn at first, but it is a relatively easy setup once you've put in the time and tried it out enough. So Cheez really taking it away in race one here. Just the little bit more difficult strats that he's going for over what Parisian is doing. Parisian's playing a little bit safer, I guess, maybe banking on Cheez messing up one of the harder strats. Speaking of harder strats, Cheez is now doing rolling through air. So what you do is you get both your Kongs, you run into the minecart as Donkey. You cannot roll, you cannot jump in, you have to walk, you have to run into the minecart, and then you take damage on the first bird. So then the game thinks that you never actually left the catwalk, so you can roll, and anytime you can roll, you can jump out of that roll. So you are perpetually jumping and rolling and jumping and rolling. It sets up a very nice jump roll. Cheez did not go for it. I don't know if Parisian will, but if he does, I'll finally get to explain the trick. If not, hopefully we'll see one in World 6, because there are a couple more for you as well. So Parisian doing the same, rolling through air. There is a point. Oh, he just went under. Yeah, he said no thanks. The thing about the jump roll in this stage is if you are late on the jump roll, if you're late on the frame perfect Y press, you end up jumping, you bounce off the bird, and you lose your rolling through air state, so you die. There is nowhere for you to land, you're just dead. And it's about, I think, a 30-second time loss just due to the setup time for this glitch. However, if you're early, you just end up rolling through the bird or rolling over the bird, no harm done, so it's better to be early than late. So Parisian, that catwalk that he just went over, that's where you lose your rolling through air glitch, just because you go over that catwalk and the game thinks you have then reached ground again. So it knows, it's no longer fooled, it knows you are no longer on the air, on the air, on the ground, in the air at the same time, and all that stuff. So Cheez having a nice time in Blackout Basement, where they apparently forgot to pay the rent. Lights go on and off every 62 frames. on for 62, off for 62, so just over a second. Most of the stage, you just rely on muscle memory. There's a couple of cool extendos and gap skips and stuff like that. Ooh, very close to that trolley claptrap at the end there for Cheez. Looks like he might have messed up that last extendo. And now Parisian doing the same. He gets Donkey back, so he's playing it a little bit safe here. What's really tricky here is if you get off your light cycle, you end up seeing the things that you're not used to seeing, and you don't see the things that you're used to seeing. So it's very tough to adjust to, and I think that's exactly what happened to Parisian right there. I think he got off his light cycle, and he was not able to find the rope there. He hopefully has practiced if you come in from halfway, though, because if you come in through halfway, you always have the same light cycle set up. Looks like he's taking it safe here. Yeah. He might not... Yeah, either he hasn't learned the stage fully, or he is just not comfortable with the light cycle. And once you get off your light cycle, it is very hard to get back on. But he does seem to have the muscle memory to roll through this section very cleanly, and he is out of Blackout Basement. So now he just has to go through Dumb Drum, which is about a 50-second fight, and then he'll be caught up with Cheez, who's now stuck in a auto-scroller. There are 2 frame-perfect tricks in this auto-scroller called Tanked Up Trouble. The first one being Krem Tut, set up off of a Kremling, Tut being an abbreviation for Tanked Up Trouble. The second one being Bird Tut, in that it's set up off of a bird. Krem Tut saves about 55 seconds, and Bird Tut saves about 42. Let's see. He might go for Krem Tut. I know he's been practicing. He is going to go for it. The madman. He rolled a little bit too soon, so he didn't actually connect with the Kremling. So now setting up for Bird Tut. And he rolled early as well. So he rolled through the bird, meaning that he was early on his Y press. If he ended up bouncing off of the bird, that would mean that he was late. So he gets this consolation prize right here. Very nice trick. So you saw he was sort of like levitating in there. Sort of looked like this little peanut shape in Diddy's like bounce animation. That is a jump roll. That's the thing that I've been talking about this whole time. You need to press Y, the roll button, as you land on an enemy. And the game gets confused whether or not it should bounce you or roll you. So you just get set in this perpetual jump roll state where you fly, I believe, at running speed. It might be... No, rolling speed. Definitely rolling speed. Perpetually forward. But it's not exactly straightforward, and because you actually do end up falling subpixels every frame. And that's going to come into play here if Parisian hits Bird Tut, setting up right now. And he was late. So you see he bounced off the bird there. He was late on his Y press, but his setup was good. If he actually ended up getting hit by the bird, you would know that his setup was not good. You actually have to bounce off the bird in order to be able to hit the trick. So Cheez now out of Tanked Up Trouble. I'm going to guesstimate about a minute, maybe a minute 10 ahead of Parisian. And now into Manic Mincers, the first and only appearance of everyone's favorite childhood animal buddy, Rambi the Rhino. He is kind of clunky, honestly, and kind of tough to handle in a speedrun. He actually has an inherent input lag that the developers programmed in to make him feel heavier, make him feel like you're actually controlling a rhino. So you press the jump button, and then a few frames later he'll jump, just to make you feel like he's this really, really heavy rhino that you sort of have to muster the strength to jump with, right? So he noticed he took damage. That was intentional. He used the rhino to clear a gap that he otherwise would have had to wait for a platform to cycle back and forth on. When you're on an animal buddy and you take damage on it, you sort of get propelled in whichever direction you're facing at max speed. You cannot roll out of it, you cannot jump out of it, you cannot even change directions. You just get launched. And if it's into a chasm, then it's into a chasm, and you end up dying. In that case, the length is just right that you end up on the next platform, assuming you do it correctly. Parisian set up a super jump there with Diddy, so it looks like he's going to be super jumping over this stage as opposed to riding his rhino. So you're going to swap here, Sacrificeless, and bounce off of the Rhino crate. So now he is flying upwards in the air, and he's going to release B, if I remember correctly, right about there. And so now he is falling. He's going to be falling for the whole rest of the stage, and since you go upwards much, much faster than you go down, you actually end up falling for the majority of the stage. Cheez in Misty Mines. He did go for the super jump roll here, but unfortunately was early. Sorry I didn't mention it. He's having a lot of good movement. He's playing really well as compared to a few races that I actually just had with him earlier tonight. He was kind of upset with his performance, so this should brighten his day a little bit. And now he's going to be going into Loopy Lights. So Cheez is exactly 1 Misty Mines ahead of Parisian right now. Good chunk over a minute. Looks like Parisian's also going to super jump over this one. And takes... Oh, he's just going to go sacrifice this as well. Okay. All right, so he's super jumping as well. Now Cheez in the last level here where the lights are out. And you get to turn them back on with these on barrels. For the most part, though, it's not like Blackout Basement where it's just like pitch black. You can actually still see most of what you're doing. So a lot of the times you can just keep playing. He's keeping this barrel with him. Interesting. I've not noticed that before, but there's a claptrap there that you normally bounce on. He just takes the barrel with him to be a little bit safer. In through the B section, a couple good tire rolls there as well. And he just has one more Mankey and one more claptrap to deal with, and then he is out of this stage. There's also a super jump roll in Loopy Lights. However, it is extremely difficult to get. Speaking from personal experience, I don't recommend it. It only saves 3 seconds, but it is off of a tire, and there's something about tires that make the frame window for super jump rolls a little bit more lenient. Still not exactly sure how it works, but it definitely gives you a bit of a bigger window than 1 frame for sure. Parisian into Loopy Lights, and it looks like he's going to play this one out. A lot of newer players will super jump over this stage as well, but they can also find the super jump setup a bit too difficult, so he's actually going to play this one out. And Cheez also missed the jump roll there in Platform Perils, so now he just has the back half of this level. Looks like he's going to take it slow, take it careful. He might know where Parisian is. He might know how much of a lead he has. I'm not exactly sure. Or this might just be his regular way to play this stage. Either way, he has a pretty definite lead right now. So as long as nothing catastrophic happens, he also did grab halfway, I believe. So even if he dies here, he still has a lot of room on Parisian. And it's looking like as he deals with the last crusher there, he's going to be free and clear out of Platform Perils. So now he just has 2 bosses left. Parisian is exactly 1 Platform Perils behind. And not looking too good for Parisian in round 1. So now, second last boss is a refight of Neki. This time, instead of shooting 1 nut at you, he shoots an increasing number of nuts based upon how many times you've hit him, going from 1 through 5. A lot of players will sacrifice Diddy on this fight in order to have a little bit of a faster time here. Diddy has a longer fanfare than Donkey does, and you don't get lag frames, freeze frames, when you lose a Kong on a boss fight. So you get to sacrifice Diddy for free in order to get Donkey in front, and then Donkey has that faster fanfare. Also, you save those 10 frames that I was talking about between the end of World 6 and entering K. Rool's fight here by only having 1 Kong in the overworld. You do end up getting Diddy back when you come into K. Rool's fight, so that takes about 1.5 seconds to get your Kong back, but it still ends up being faster, and a lot of people actually prefer to face K. Rool as Donkey. The way that he jumps, it just seems to work out better for some players. They seem to like timing the jumps better. And what I mean by timing the jumps, so he throws his crown at you, and as he's releasing his crown, as he's pulling it off of his head, he's still invulnerable until he actually gets his hand out in front, fully extended, and throws his crown. If you are optimal in your hits, which I don't necessarily anticipate either player going for, so I'm not really going to be able to show you that, But if you are optimal in your hits, you don't actually end up seeing the crown. If you hit him the first frame that he is vulnerable, or the first handful of frames maybe, the crown doesn't actually appear as a sprite on the screen before he throws it. You just sort of see his hand extend. That was a pretty good one right there, actually, on Cheez's part. You saw like maybe 1, maybe 2 frames of the crown there before he threw it. Now Cheez onto the credits. As you can see, the game was coded by Claptrap, characters done by Crusha, the coloring done by Critter. That's a funny way to spell coloring. Concept by Clump, and the commander is K. Rool. But this is the end? Question mark. Nay would be sad with the lack of slap slides. That's another reason that some people prefer to do K. Rool as Donkey. There is some so far unused in speedruns, unviable, or not viable in speedruns, unuseful in speedrun tech, called a slap slide. So you saw earlier when Cheez slapped the ground with Donkey after that Beaver fight, after the second Naughty fight, he slapped the ground. You can actually slap and move at the same time. It is not typically useful in a speedrun, but still some nice swag. GG to Cheez with a low 36. He should be happy with that one. He he was struggling a little bit earlier tonight, so he should definitely feel a little bit of redemption there, as opposed to the races he was having earlier. Parisian on to K. Rool doing the same. Gonna let him finish this fight up, and he might actually show off some of his blindfold tech. He may have actually, but I missed it if he did. As I said, he is a blindfold runner, so he had to learn to do this fight, along with the rest of the game, he had to learn to do this fight blindfolded. So you purely rely on audio cues, basically when the cannonballs drop and stuff like that, and you line yourself up such that the cannonballs fall on either side of you, because Diddy's hitbox is actually small enough to fit in between the cannonballs as they fall down. It's just a matter of finding that spot such that you're in between them. So game 1 goes to Cheez, and Parisian following up very shortly with those fake credits. Just 1 cycle left, and we're going to, I would imagine, take a little bit of a break, just give the runners some time to refresh, relax, take a breather. GG to Parisian, finished with a SRL official race time of 37:42, improving his race personal best. So that's a race best for him. Very nice. Not necessarily coincidental with his personal best time overall, which I believe, as I said before, is a 36. Looks like they're just gonna go for it right back again. So I think we're gonna have very minimal downtime. The runners have already joined up in the rematch, and we're probably going to get on their way very shortly. One thing that you have to keep in mind between races, if you're doing multiple races in a row, as you see sometimes in various levels, the runners will pick up these animal tokens. If you get 3 of them, you get entered into an animal bonus game, animal buddy bonus game, and they take a long time. You get a 99-second timer up at the top of the screen. The Rhino one's a little bit faster just because it was, I think, programmed incorrectly. The timer ticks a little bit faster than the others. So you get a 99-second timer in this bonus game, and that is pretty much GG if you get that in a race. That's like a 2-minute loss, basically, with the transitions. And it also throws you back in at the beginning of which level you got the token in. So the tokens, I mentioned them because they carry over from run to run. So if you get a couple of tokens and then you finish a game, and if you wait through all the credits, the staff roll, the character parade, all that stuff, it takes you back to the main menu, and then you can start another run. If you start another run, it carries over your token counts. So we do get a ostrich token in Poison Pond, and there is one other place in 1-1 where runners can get it sometimes. You also get a On guard token in Blackout Basement usually, and a Rhino token in 1/5 Barrel Cannon Canyon. So if you do 3 runs in a row, you are nearly guaranteed to get those unless your route specifically deviates from them. All right, on our way again under another run here, and Parisian is sticking with his 2 Kong strat, keeping Donkey for 1/1, and Cheez again sacrificing him to save on a little bit of lag and save on some overworld frames. So first right there, that corner, that first corner between the first 2 levels, that is another corner where you can map warp. We use that one in the any % run, actually. It also warps you to Ogang, just at a different spot. So now that we've seen one race, I'll try to comment more of the more in detail things. Here they're taking a bonus, just like in Elevator Antics. You take a bonus just to skip the majority of this level. It also shoots you out very, very quickly, which saves a lot of time as well. So another extendo right there. It doesn't look like either of them actually went for it. And so when you are on the overworld map and you just finish a level, you see the Kongs sort of dance in place for a little bit. If you mash all the face buttons, it skips a little bit of the fanfare, it cuts it short, saves somewhere around a minute over the course of the whole speed run. And you see them do that after every regular stage. So just keep an eye out for that. You'll see when somebody forgets to do it. You definitely can tell it's a lot longer. So you see that crawl space on Parisian's side. It's a lot slower than just jumping through it. And now onto Coral Capers again. So be on the lookout for those tight corners and swimming upwards and all that stuff that I was talking about in Croctopus Chase before. You'll definitely notice it more and more as runners get, we'll say to the higher levels of runners. You know, the more advanced runners. You want to cut these corners as quickly as possible. Right there on Cheez's screen, you saw he had a little bit of a boost as he got onto On Guard, what we like to call fast start. If you hold up and press B to swim upwards as you are mounting on Guard, you'll mount him at your full swim up speed. So the closer you do that to when you actually mount him, the faster you'll start out. It just saves you that acceleration time, that initial accelerate upwards. Cheez taking the down route. I don't know if I've ever noticed that before. Basically identical as opposed to this upper strat that Parisian is taking right now. Going across the top, you basically just clip through the Croctopus. So no real difference there. Just, I guess, personal preference. The fish On Guard moves at the same speed either way. So you see Cheez picking up that Ramby token. He only has 1 because he did in fact reset his console. And Parisian takes a little bit of a different role and avoids it actually, so he doesn't have to worry about them. I believe he's playing on emulator though, and he probably just loads state back on the file select screen in between runs, if I had to guess. So Cheez now looking at, let's see, about a 350 if I had to guess, which isn't really a bad World 1 exit time for newer runners. It's actually a pretty good goal for somebody who's been running for, say, a few months or so. Yeah, 350, almost on the dot. Very nice World 1 exit, and Parisian is just behind him at a 357. A lot of that in part due to having 2 Kongs, but he has plenty of time to make up a little bit of some error, or not necessarily errors, but differences in their strategies as well. So there was a extendo in the very beginning of this stage. Cheez went for it. Looks like Parisian opted out of it. I wanted to mention it, but looks like we're going to have to go to game 3 if I want you guys to see it as I'm mentioning it. Onto Minecart Carnage again. Hopefully Cheez has a safer, yeah, there you go, a little bit cleaner that time around. So he presses Y to initiate his roll and then jumps over the barrel without picking it up. See it on Parisian's screen right here. He rolls a little bit further, such that he isn't getting all the same benefits. He's not benefiting as much because he jumps a little bit later. He's losing a little bit of time. Not a huge big deal though. All right, some nice rolls here. If you roll at the edge of a ledge, you sort of get a little boost, pushes you out a little bit further, and it helps you clear some gaps sometimes. We make use of that in this stage. And Cheez going for the second half of... Oh, he almost went for it. So in this stage, there's those crawl spaces there. You can skip a couple of those B cycles. We call it B skip. Looks like Cheez was going to go for it, but he opted out of it. He might have not felt comfortable with it. Saves about 4 seconds if you hit both halves. Again, in the grand scheme, it's not a huge deal, but it is another time saver if you can get it. Also a trick there. There's a pretty spooky jump where you skip one of the tires. We like to call it spooky jump. It saves about a quarter of a second. However, if you jump too late, you end up jumping into the B, and you lose your Diddy, loses some time. But if you jump too early, you actually fall into the pit and die, and that costs about 40 because we don't get maybe just 30. Either way, a lot of time because we don't get the halfway barrel in that stage. So on Cheez's screen, you saw Donkey jumped off the top of the screen. He's going to get his Donkey back. He's going to have a much cleaner Millstone Mayhem this time around. He goes straight up into the Donkey exclusive Warp Barrel. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. He is out on the second side. And Parisian going to go for the same thing. And launch his Kong up into the barrel. Very nice. And now onto that Neki fight again. So the only RNG in this game is Neki, this bird boss. Both the first fight and the second fight, the only RNG is whether or not he spawns on the top or the bottom, the left or the right. Left and right are essentially identical. You prefer the bottom spawns over the top just because they're easier to hit. As you saw on Cheez's screen, he got hit on the very last hit as he was hitting Neki. Very unfortunate because he's now going to have to get Donkey back in order to take this Donkey exclusive Warp Barrel here at the beginning of this stage. It's also on a timer as well, so he does need to get here quickly. Otherwise, the barrel will just be gone. Once you get there in time, though, it stays there. It's not like it will vanish in front of your eyes, but you do have to get there post-haste. Both Cheez and Parisian getting there in time, no problems whatsoever. And then they opt to take Donkey through these barrels here and take what looks like an intentional deboost on the last set of barrels there on those Bs. Most players will switch back to Diddy because he does have a smaller hitbox and can make it in between those Bs. And you do want Diddy in front for Treetop Town to get into that bonus, and for Forest Frenzy, this stage that they're in right now as well, to set up this super jump again. So they're just no big deal. There's a extra DK barrel in the beginning, so use that to get their Donkey back, set up the super jump right there on Parisian's screen, and you see Cheez executing very nicely. Parisian going to follow up here in a second. Well done. All right, so now both the players are flying over the top of the screen. Cheez releases right there, so now ever after now, he is falling. There is, as I said before, a super jump roll in this stage. So it combines the jump roll with a super jump to get your super jump roll. So you need to set up a super jump state and then also walk off that ledge and land on the Kremling that they super jumped off of, but also hit Y on the exact frame that they land on that Kremling, and it sends them in this basically levitating cartwheel. So normally when you roll through an enemy, or when you roll, Diddy has this cartwheel animation, and when you do a super jump roll, your cartwheel just starts levitating because of that super jump state that you're in. So you are moving at roll speed plus however many enemies you roll through, and going upwards. So you get the benefit of the super jump where you go over the top of the stage, in addition to moving at roll speed plus whatever enemies that you end up rolling through. And in Forest Frenzy, there is a setup to hit 4 enemies, which is the maximum speed. So that is literally the fastest way that we can come up with to beat the stage, short of finding some sort of new tech in this game or some new glitch. So that one is going to be around for a while, and it is very fast. But also, as I said, a one-frame trick. Very, very risky. Cheez, I don't know if he knows, but that is actually not faster to double back there to do the little wiki shuffle and roll through those Kremlings, unless you get the rope clip, which is a pixel perfect trick. You need to jump off of the last pixel, the very ledge, the last pixel that you're standing on the edge there. You need to jump, and you actually end up getting a jump while the game still thinks you're in a falling state. And as I mentioned before, if you're in a falling state and you go through a rope, you clip right through it. That's why they have to walk off the ledge as they set up that super jump in Frenzy. Both players getting first try map warp. Very nice. It's not all that difficult just because you can mash all 4 of the face buttons at the same time, but some players do have trouble with it because it is frame perfect. So now back into Clam City, affectionately called Clam Chowder. And if you don't have a good time in this stage, you can replace city with another word that rhymes with it. And so as you see here, it's just a lot of up and down, up and down. And when you can, you do want to lunge from side to side. And then you get this big hallway at the end here that is all these big long lunges. And so you can sort of line yourself up to avoid the croctopuses and get through this clam section very nicely with this little darker band in the background. You can sort of tell where you need to be and line yourself up there. You can see Parisian lining himself up now. Then he goes a little bit higher. He wiggles a little bit back and forth. There is a way to clip through that clam. As I mentioned, you can clip through the enemies that you can't kill. You can actually clip through it rather than getting hit like he did. It is kind of a precise setup. And On Guard will also... Ooh, that was very close on Cheez's side. On Guard will lunge through enemies that he gets too close to. So what you end up doing is just lunging at him such that when you finish your lunge, you're close enough to the clam that he auto lunges through it again, and your invincibility frames, your iframes. The double kill on Cheez's screen! Oh no, man. So Parisian officially ahead for, I believe, the first time this race. Looks like Cheez's donkey strats did not pan out for him. He had a little bit of tough time getting the barrels by the bee, just because Donkey holds it above his head. It is a little bit difficult to get underneath the bee without clashing the barrel on it sometimes. So Parisian is going to have, looks like about 20 seconds or so, possibly more. Oh, definitely more. Unfortunate there. But Cheez definitely does want Diddy in front for the next world, so that is quite okay. He's just going to go back and get Donkey back as soon as he finds him, I'm sure. Nice barrel boost on Parisian's side. Looks like Snow Barrel Blast is going swimmingly for him, and he's now going to... Actually, I don't think he does the extendo. Oh, no, he does. There's an nice extendo through 3 birds there, as opposed to going over the top of them. And roll through this bird, jump into that auto barrel across the bottom of the stage, and he is pretty much free and clear out of Snow Barrel. So now Cheez going to have to do a little bit of catch up here. Also going for barrel boost. No turn back. Very nice. And now Parisian going into slip slide. That same stage with that out of bounds and the warp barrel at the top. This stage actually has a unique tile set. This crystal cave is not seen in any other level. He didn't get the out of bounds. Rather than swapping to Donkey, he's going to go for it again. Gets it second try. I think that's just about even due to having to swap twice if you do end up swapping and going into the barrel as Donkey, because you end up swapping back to Diddy as you come out the other side in order to get through the rest of the stage more optimally using Diddy in front. So about 14:04 exit from slip slide for Parisian. Cheez getting first try out of bounds, no problems. And Parisian is back on his bird again. And I think last time around, he had a little bit of a cleaner Ice Age Alley than Cheez did. So I'm interested to see if Cheez can make up any time on him in this level. Cheez is about 24 seconds behind, according to my timing. So we'll see what he can make up, if anything. I do know Cheez has been working on this stage a lot. I personally race with him quite often in what we like to call DGen Hour in the DKC community. We call it degen, as in degeneracy, just because it's usually really late at night. Looks like 1447 or so. So 57 rather. But yeah, we usually race a lot really late at night, and usually get a good squad of about, well, it depends. It's anywhere between 3 and 7 people most nights. And there's been a lot of interest in it lately just due to this tournament, so I've been enjoying lots of races lately. So Cheez is still about 27 behind. They went just about even on that stage. So now let's see if Cheez can make up that same 2 seconds that he made up, or I guess gained, on Parisian last time around. There were quite a few bonks that both players had, so we'll see how close each of them play it. See who ends up having the cleaner stage. We do use an audio cue to tell basically how well you executed the stage. This is Aquatic Ambiance, basically one of everybody's favorites audio tracks from their childhood. Anybody who played this game as a kid always says, "Oh, I love the Aquatic Ambiance." David Wise is a genius. Everyone knows that, it's fact. So there's a little bit of a piano refrain. You sort of get these 6 piano notes and a little gap, and then more piano notes. In that first set of 6 piano notes, typically that's where you tell how well you did. It is that close in time. The best players actually won't even hear that set of piano notes, so what we like to call piano-ness happens. And exactly just what Red was talking about, the wah-wah-wahs. So we like to sing the song. I will not do it this time around, but we like to improvise lyrics and whatnot to go along with this soundtrack. Parisian, again, hugging those walls a little bit too much. I don't know if he just hasn't cared to optimize this stage enough, or what. Yeah, so you heard the piano notes there on Parisian's screen. Looks like he had about a 25 exit roughly, and so that, I mean, no surprise. The way that he plays, the way that Cheez plays. I mean, this isn't a dig against either of them, but it is very difficult to get pianoless Croctopus Chase. Some of the top players still don't. Some players who have at one point in time or currently hold the world record still have never gotten pianoless. It is very difficult. So no knock against them. It's just tough. Looks like Cheez is still about 25 to 30 back. So they're mostly staying necky and necky. Not really budging either way. They're pretty much mirroring each other's play. And so we get to... Why does he have the barrel? This is making me nervous. Oh, he keeps it for that Crusher. I've never seen that before. Interesting. I don't know if he did that last time and I just didn't notice, but I was... that's a good strat, actually. So there's that section there where there are 2 mincers very near each other, and there's a Crusher that walks in between them. Lots of players will land very briefly, do a quick roll to get their speed back, and jump over the Crusher and the mincer and clear a gap in order to get to the next section of land. And it is quite a tight jump. Jump too late, you run into the Crusher. Jump too early, you fall into the gap. And either way, you're going to have a bad time. So Parisian going into the second naughty fight again. There's some cool tech you can do on this boss. If you jump on him very close to the top of the screen, very close to the apex of his jump, near the left-hand side, probably the right-hand side as well, I've never tried, you actually get to hang out in the upper left-hand corner. There is collision up there. There's land for some reason. And you can actually just sort of hang out up there. And he is vulnerable as he comes down from the peak of his jump. You see it on Cheez's screen right now, actually. So he took a optimal hit there, that second hit, hitting Naughty as soon as he is vulnerable, coming down from the peak of his jump. So that is the fastest way to do the fight in this category. We actually skip a cycle in other categories. For whatever reason, if you sacrifice a Kong on him as he's doing his high jumps in between phases, you end up skipping them. So Parisian didn't get the SJR, getting his donkey back, taking it safe, and she's going to set up for the same right now. He gets it. He gets the super jump roll. Only gets 2 baddies, but that's still not anything to be scoffed at. So Cheez is going to be ahead, assuming he comes down appropriately here. He should have released already, so he should be falling at this point. But as you can see, he is going to zip by Parisian right there. He's already passed him. And just like that, Parisian is no longer reigning supreme over this race, and he's also looking like he's going to take it safely through this last oil drum section that he jumped over last time. So he took the super jump over the stage last game. Looks like he's not entirely too confident in this last section, which is quite difficult. If you mess up, if you jump too far, you fall into the pit and you die. So that is nothing to scoff at. So now Cheez is about 20, no, maybe not 25, probably 20 ahead. Looks like about 20 ahead of Parisian right now, and he is going to take that bonus to skip a majority of the stage. I don't think. Oh, Parisian's going to go for the super jump here. I don't know if he just couldn't last time or chose not to, or maybe he messed it up. But yeah, he is super jumping over elevator antics. He didn't have any issue with it last time around, so I'm curious as to why he's choosing to super jump over it now. It seemed like he executed it just fine last time, but either way, super jumping over this stage does lose a little bit of time, overplaying out the stage, not as much as some other stages. Just because of the elevator cycles that you have to wait on, the level inherently sort of forces you to hurry up and stop in some places. Specifically, that last section with the 4 elevators going up and down where we actually do skip 1 cycle. Because of the way the cave stages are laid out, they have very high ceilings, and in order to actually super jump over the top of them, you have to go up really, really high. So you have to come down off of this cliff sort of at the end of the stage, so you actually need to go higher than you would need to in order to come down by the time you reach the end of the stage, just in order to clear that ceiling that I was talking about. So now, again, both players still in the same stage, still anybody's race, still very, very close, and Cheez having a good old time on his good buddy On Guard and clipping through some mincers. Looks like he's going to be free and clear through the end of the stage. This last section here is pretty much a gimme. For the most part, you really just follow the same movement every time, and there's no real issue. You don't have to have some tight movement to clip through the mincers or anything. You just sort of bop the fish out of the way when they get in your way. So Cheez setting up, rolling through air again. You run into the cart, take damage on the first bird, and you're rolling. I don't know if he intentionally. Yeah, he's not going for the jump roll there. He knows in race situation there's too much riding on it, because you do lose, like I said, about 30 or so, maybe less, just due to the setup if you end up being late on the jump, because you end up losing your rolling through air glitch. And Parisian going for the same. It kind of spooks me a little bit when he rolls through that first very close second, but he is rolling along just fine. And so now some tire rolls on Cheez's side. That's basically the only other way to speed up this stage at all. Specifically, these last couple tire rolls here where you bop the guys out of the carts, as opposed to jumping on them, because as you see right there, it makes you hang up in the air a little bit longer. If you roll off the tire, you cartwheel into the guys and kick them out. Just goes a little bit faster than having to jump on them. So you see Parisian doesn't go for the tire rolls. They can be tricky to learn at first. And if you mess one of them up, you do end up dying. So it's very high stakes if to mess it up. You have to be very comfortable with them in order to go for them. Cheez is in Blackout Basement and looks like he's just doing his thing on his light cycle. No problems. Doesn't go for the cycle skip there, the rope skip. Pretty tricky to learn. It is an extendo in the dark. You have to extend your roll at the very edge of the platform. You see where there's that yellow caution tape. That's your cue to repress. And typically the lights are out when you need to repress, so it's kind of a feel thing. You just have to go by feel. Parisian taking a death, bit unfortunate, but he's still not that far behind, all things considered, because Frame World is coming up after this. That is the nickname that we have for World 6. There is actually a frame perfect trick in every stage. Tanked Up Trouble, Manic Mincers, Misty Minds, Loopy Lights, and Platform Perils. There is a frame perfect trick in each one of them. However, typically only 3 of them are mainstream. Parisian opts not to go for Misty Minds SJR, however Cheez does. So if Cheez hits that, he does have that advantage. And it does save about 26 seconds or so, overplaying the stage optimally, which I don't know that either player necessarily does. Also, there is Platform Perils jump roll, which saves a good boatload of time. Highly variable based upon how you end up playing the back half of that stage. But the way that Parisian was playing, he stood to save a lot of time if he ended up getting that frame perfect trick. The biggest one, though, the big kahuna, is Tanked Up Trouble. Both of the frame perfect tricks in here are the 2 largest in the game. Bird Tut, again, saving about 42, and Creme Tut saving about 55. Again, Creme Tut is very, very difficult to pull off RTA, real-time attack. And not only do you have to hit a frame perfect trick, then you have to wiggle back and forth in between the platform and the tracker that you're on. Then after that, you have to wiggle between 2 bees such that you don't get hit by them. When you are in your jump roll state, you are immune to all enemies except bees and I believe mincers. Cheez again rolled a little bit early. Better safe than sorry, though. Honestly, there are a lot of ways where you can screw up going for Creme Tut and just die. So Cheez early on the Bird Tut roll again, as you saw, he rolled through the bird. So now this is Parisian's race to come back from. I think showing out consolation prize right there. Very nice, Cheez. I think Parisian can mostly come out even from this, based upon his entrance time as opposed to where Cheez was when he came in. I think they can mostly come out even if Parisian can manage to hit Bird Tut. So we'll see. We'll see how that ends up. Fire Barrel too, yeah. There's a lot of unworthy frame perfect tricks in this world that most people don't go for. So Parisian setting up for Bird Tut now. And he was also early. Not a huge deal. I mean, he would really have liked to get that trick. That would set them just about even. But anything can happen. World 6 is not to be taken lightly. Any of these stages can put you in an infinite cycle. What we like to call a infinite. Just dying over and over and over again. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Cheez is on his way out at about 28:42. I think Parisian is about a minute behind or so at this point, by my estimate. We'll see what ends up, how far he ends up being behind. So Cheez back on Ramby the Rhino, and little wiggle there in order to get through that cycle. And again, just wait there. Oh, he lost his Rhino. Can be tricky to get him back, especially in that pit. The other thing there is a bonus on that right-hand side. If you get too close to that right wall, you end up breaking open a bonus and usually end up getting sucked in. So the Yoshi treatment right there. Sorry, Ramby. Thank you for your service. And he skips that platform cycle. And now he is on his way out. So that was 29:35. I already forget what I said Cheez exited at. But they are within a minute of each other. I could be wrong. I forget already. So now Cheez is going to be setting up for Misty Mines SJR again. He was early. That's all right. So we get to see more platforming, which is what this game is all about. That is the most interesting part, in my opinion. There is another jump roll in this stage. It is not worth it. Right there, right on that can that he was just on, you stand to save 80 frames if you hit it, which is, or maybe it was that one right there. I forget. Either way, it's one of those cans, and you basically just skip some rope cycles. You save 80 frames if you hit this frame perfect trick, which is, what's that, 1 1/3 seconds, as opposed to standing to lose, I believe like 5 if you miss it, maybe less. It's not worth it. It was something that used to be mandatory in the old school all stages run before super jumps were found, before super jump rolls were found, I should say. So back then the category was that optimized where you had to go for a 80-second time save. Parisian again super jumping over Misty Mines, made it out of Manic Mincer's no problem, and she's now onto Loopy Lights. There is a roll right here. Doesn't go for it. It's called Swedish roll. Basically, you just end up rolling for an extended period of time across multiple platforms. The interesting thing about rolls in this DKC versus the other ones is your roll gets refreshed as you go down like stairs or to new platforms, as opposed to just rolling like a set distance as you do in the other games. So if you roll from one platform down to the next, down to the next, down to the next, your roll keeps getting refreshed. And you see that in some sloped areas, like in Orangutan Gang, which is that level that we skipped the majority of. But it is also seen in other places. Like I mentioned in Swedish roll, you just sort of go from one step down to another, and your roll keeps getting extended. Parisian playing through Loopy Lights again. He is... I don't think he's making up any time, but he's still keeping Cheez on his toes. Definitely giving him a run for his money. Cheez into platform perils, and now he's going to set up for the jump roll right here. Setup looks good. He was late on the Y press, that's why he bounced off the army there. So he's going to have to play out the end of this stage. Can be tricky, but he's done it before, and we'll see if he can do it again. Grabs halfway, very smart choice, especially in a race situation, especially in this race situation where he has a pretty healthy lead. Now Parisian into the B section of Loopy Lights, and then coming up on the Mankey. And he is out of there. So now Parisian hoping for a miracle. We'll see what ends up happening here, but it looks like Cheez is out of platform perils. So that is the end of the platforming stages for Cheez. Just those same two bosses left. And we're probably gonna see this game go 2-0. Probably see this match go 2-0. Parisian setting up, and he gets it. There we go. This is the first jump roll we've seen of the game. Real jump. So as you see, Parisian is a peanut rolling through space right now. So that is a frame perfect Y press landing on that armadillo on the very edge of that platform. This saves a whole boatload of time because, as you see, he's not stopping and he's moving at roll speed this entire time. And all those platforms that you saw Cheez jumping and going on, he skips every single one of them. It looks like this would have been a much closer race had he not died, but I do believe that Cheez would still have the edge here because this necky fight is, I think, about 25 seconds, depending on how optimal your hits are. So really, Parisian's just hoping for Cheez to mess up pretty badly on K. Rool here. Not only is he going to have to take damage with Diddy, also with Donkey. So it looks like this one is just about wrapped up. Parisian looking at a low 37, like a 37:10-ish final time. And Cheez, I didn't see his banana drop on Neki 2, but he's going to be a little bit ahead there. So again, the running phase, where he runs back and forth, does the running man on you, and then the cannonball phase, where you see Cheez is right now. Looks like Cheez either doesn't know or isn't comfortable with the magic pixels, as we call them with Diddy, where you can just stand in between the cannonballs. There's a couple good visual cues. It changes based upon if it's an even cycle or an odd cycle, based upon which side K. Rool is standing on. The first and third cycle, you can stand in the same place. However, if you stand there for the second cycle, you'll end up getting hit directly on the head with the cannonball. You have to sit in a different spot. So now Cheez onto the fake credits. Just about a minute left. And he is looking pretty good here for this matchup. Looks like he's going to probably move on. No commentator's curse here. And Parisian is going to be sent home 0-2 in these bracket matches. You see Parisian right there. He lined up perfectly such that he was between the cannonballs. Only for that one cycle, though. He, I'm not sure if that was... I don't think that's his setup that he uses for blindfolded runs. But either way, showing off some good tech there. And GG for Cheez. Parisian on the fake credits, so he is close behind. But looks like Cheez is done it. And now he's going to be moving on to the next round for this, which I don't think is decided yet. I don't think he is... let's try to pull this up here. I don't think he can know his opponent yet, just because he's a little bit further advanced in terms of his matches compared to others. So him versus Parisian, he's going to face the loser of Blueberry versus I Want to Be Your Jackie. And that is, I think, not scheduled yet. Oh, no, it is. Scheduled for Wednesday, November 7th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That one is going to decide who Cheez goes on to face in Losers Round 2. So GG to Cheez. Very well played. A couple 36s back-to-back. He should be very happy with that. And 36-25. I think that's still within a minute of his personal best, because I think he's got either a mid or a high 35. So staying within a minute of your personal best in a race situation twice in a row is very admirable. You know, very good. So GG's to Cheez. And oh yeah, that's right. He hit ODA in this run. Yeah. So that was a big saver for him. That definitely helped him out. Got him back into the lead. If Cheez didn't hit ODA, let's see. Parisian was 37.09. If Cheez didn't hit ODA, it would have been close. I don't necessarily know Cheez's time through the back half of ODA. Typically, we say it saves 26 seconds over optimal. No knocks against Cheez, but I don't think he does it exactly optimal. But I think he does still have the edge over Parisian, even if he missed ODA there.
Yeah, and even if I did not die in Bob, it wouldn't have mattered.
Parisian, what's up? Yeah, you did take an unfortunate death in Blackout Basement, but you were definitely keeping up with Cheez. You were right on his heels the entire time in both races. So GG's to you, man. You put up a very good fight.
Yeah, if I didn't die in Bob, it would have been my second 36. So my 36 for me is a deathless run with the frame. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's nothing to scoff at for a lot of runners. 36 is a very good benchmark time when you're really going to start getting into the game. That's really what sort of separates from what I'd say like more casual speedrunners, the people that just like pick this up on a whim, as opposed to the people who like really want to play this game. Like 36 is, in my mind, you know, that sort of turning point where you go from becoming a casual to really like a better DKC runner, you know, one of the more regular runners. So GG's to you, man, with your 36, and you were very close to another one. And congrats on Perils. That was very impressive. You were the only person to hit a regular jump roll this whole race, the whole set of matches.
Yeah, I was
so dry. My runs are so dry, except for ODA.
Yeah, you hit ODA, so that was the only super jump roll, and Parisian hit Perils, so that was the only jump roll. So I'm very glad that we got to show off both tricks either way, and lots of differences in your strategies, so that was very interesting to commentate. And as I expected, it was both of them were very close races. I kind of wanted it to go to 3, just so we could have more donkey, but I know how strenuous that can be playing this game 3 times in a row, so I really didn't necessarily wish that on anyone, but it was definitely fun to watch.
You know, after I tied the B fight and had to do the entire thing again,
yeah, the double KO, that was something.
It's part of me was laughing, but another part of me was really mad because I felt like I actually couldn't focus very well after that.
Yeah. And Parisian, congrats on improving your race best twice in a row. Last time and then again this time.
That shows how bad it was before, but yeah, in races I never hit a frame before. Like in even surprising, I improved the race with a death in the first race. So yeah. Also, I'm happy I hit a frame because I still had not hit a frame in this in the tournament. So being able to hit one on the last possible frame of my tournament was at least like
I'm just glad I hit a frame so that I could feel less stupid after.
Yeah, I'll say that you definitely went out with hitting Platform Perils, the last frame of the last level in your last race, Parisian. You have that to smile on, and you can definitely say that you gave it your all. And I'm proud of you, man. I'm definitely proud of how far I've seen you come from the very beginning to now, and I look forward to seeing more from you if you choose to do so, or even more 2 times, or more blindfold, whatever you have to offer.
Yeah, so basically, as I said, after losing to Fastflow, when there was the opportunity to do that tournament, I had a very bad 37, 39 PB before, and was like, okay, at least let's go with a 36. And when I got the 36 after the group phase, my mid 36, I was like, okay, that's it, game over. So I basically did not practice at all against Fastflow, and my practice before that confrontation versus a cheese was to do some DKC to double speed. So that's how, after I got the 36, I was concerned about playing all stages. So I'm still quite surprised I still had almost a 36 this run with absolutely no practice in 3 weeks. So
I went into this with somewhat minimal practice as well, as I've been very busy lately, so I had to go into practice raw today. Got a couple runs off.
Yeah, you had a.
I'm kind of glad that I got 2 low 36s. Very good movement for the most part on me, with just like a few weird mistakes. But overall, my movements, I have some weird strats and I have some weird mistakes. It's kind of.
You definitely did some things that I hadn't seen elsewhere, particularly in Torchlight Trouble. You take the barrel all the way to the crusher between the 2 mincers, and I don't know if I just never seen you do Torchlight before, or if that's a new strat for you, or what, but
relatively new, because I was trying to master the roll, but I kept bonking the crusher and then getting hit.
Yeah, okay.
No,
okay.
I also accidentally pick up the barrel all the time. So I was
like, I mean,
you know what? Why don't I just use this thing like a battering ram here?
Yeah, that is a good strat. I like that. You miss out boost, but I mean that is so safe and saves so much time over dying or getting hit. So kudos to you for coming up with that one. So I like that. I like that.
My movement strats are very much tailored for tournament play because I don't do very many risky things. I have very, very safe movement in a lot of places.
Yeah,
Probably my
definitely...
riskiest movement my entire run is the ending of ODA if I don't hit the frame. That part's
Yeah, and you did that well. You did that well today when you had to.
thankful.
It looked like you had definitely practiced that a lot.
Yeah, once I'm out of this tournament, I'm probably going to start shooting for much more purely optimized movement. And I think the next thing I want to do is learn how to do the B fight with B, because I'm never letting go of that.
So you are going to keep running and keep playing this game then, even after tournament?
Oh, positively. I really
okay,
want to get
all right. Because some people will just pick up the
game.
game for the tournament and then like that's it, like they've had their fill and they're done. But I'm glad to hear that we have a new
This tournament just pushed
for the long term.
Oh yeah, one other thing I need to mention. What on this earth was that millstone in my first run?
Yeah, you had a little bit of trouble. So you held left too long and then you ended up bonking, you bopped the Crusher with Donkey, and that's why you, like, then you had to set up for the second one, where you took damage too close to the top, so that Donkey ran over the top.
My god, I didn't even know either of those mistakes were possible.
Yeah, so you need to basically let the slope push you into the Crusher in order to take damage on him. If you're holding left, you'll actually run on top of him and hit him on the head.
Well, I had a feeling both times going at the slope that I was doing some sort of unusual, so I guess that's precisely what it was.
Yeah, it's just something that you learn after doing it enough and messing it up enough, and you've done your time, and so now you've learned from.
I'd say it was mostly just nervousness that led to that. Also,
Yeah.
funny with my Treetop Town death.
Yeah, Treetop Town, that was
broke my nerves because it was really funny to me.
That was interesting. All right, so Cheez, it looks like you're gonna advance to losers round 2, and you're gonna face off against the loser of Blueberry versus Jackie. And not trying to call any races here, but who do you think you're gonna be racing against, and who would you rather race against?
I can't remember how good Jackie is, actually. I have not paid attention to their runs.
Jackie has a 33.04.
I know Blueberry's been working pretty hard lately, though. Isn't he grinding for a 33?
Yeah, Blueberry's been on the grind for a 33, and Jackie has a 33.04.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, I guess I'd rather fight Blueberry then.
Yeah. You know, it's one thing to be said about your personal best time. It's a whole nother thing to be said about the best time that you can pull off consistently in a race. I'm not really sure how well Jackie races. I haven't seen too much of it, but he has held up pretty well in the tournament so far. I believe he's still undefeated all the way through his first round of brackets. He went undefeated through groups and he 2-0'd real, so he is doing pretty well.
Meanwhile, I just want to get a 34 by the end of the tournament, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, if you keep hitting ODA and all those frames, you certainly will.
Oh, yeah. My movement's gotten a lot better. I keep saving like 20 seconds on World 4.
There you go. That's the best feeling, when you save time without hitting frames, just purely hitting movement.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Thank you very much to everyone who watched. Thank you both to MozzarellaCheez and Parisian Player. Give these guys a follow, !R. And thank you very much for Speed Gaming hosting this as always. And I look forward to the next race. You can find all the information you need in the chat through all those DKC links. And hopefully you tune in next time and we get to hang out some more, because there is a lot of good Donkey coming up over the next month from a lot of good players, and it's only going to get better as we get further and further and deeper into the bracket.
Follow me, and one day I'll get a 31, maybe.
You heard it here first, folks. Follow Cheez and he'll get you a 31. So far, that is a unobtained time. The world record is 32:10. So he's calling world record eventually.
Yes, just wanted to
on
say
eventually.
also.
It's definitely going to take some work and improvement, but I've demonstrated some, so I can keep going.
Yeah, I just wanted to say also that SSS is going to start in about 10 days, and on Speed Gaming, and so we're both making advertisement for me and for SSS because I have 4 runs there, including some DKC1, DKC2, double speed of course because that's my thing. Yeah, SSS is a really fun marathon because since it's very long, we have often some very nice categories, something you'll never see usually. You'll see them at SSS. So stay tuned for that in starting 16th November. We don't have the schedule yet, but hopefully we'll have it soon. So
Soon TM. Coming soon.
yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks again. I'm done and rolling out.
Charging out.
Bye bye.